Hare Krishna. You all can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So we'll get started diving into Srimad Bhagavatam even more. And I just wanted to say that I have been having a great time reading Srimad Bhagavatam, preparing for this class, and it's been a blast. It's just been so wonderful. And I just feel so fortunate and so much filled with gratitude that I'm getting a chance to read Srimad Bhagavatam in this life. We all being in ISKCON, coming to the Hare Krishna temple, we are kind of over familiar. You can't ever be over familiar, but we kind of are very, very familiar with Srimad Bhagavatam. And we kind of, I at least take it for granted. Yes, Srimad Bhagavatam, okay, yet another Srimad Bhagavatam class, or more Srimad Bhagavatam, or I just know this. But, when you have to teach it to someone, then, going word by word through the verses, word by word through the purports, and just so much more meaning comes out. And I just can't, I make some notes of what I will say, and I just can't stop making notes, just keep writing down stuff that, and just like keep wondering, my God, I didn't realize this earlier. And this is just so fortunate that we are getting a chance to read Srimad Bhagavatam in this life. I think about, I look outside in the world, and there are just so many people on the road who have probably no idea what Srimad Bhagavatam is. And I just feel that, somehow I could go and tell them, and, just make everybody realize what is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And today's topic is especially very, 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 I would say, heart churning, very touching. So anybody that has had a very traumatic experience in their life will find today's class very meaningful. So, please, I would say, buckle up your seats and get ready for the ride. So before we get started, I will, let's recite the Mangalacharan Prayers and the invocation prayers for Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm going to share my screen. I'm probably going to just share my screen all throughout the class. So this is the topics from Srimad Bhagavatam class. Second. So we will come to this verse a little later, these verses. Let's first recite the Mangalacharan Prayers, which are at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, as it is. And I'll just recite those. I don't want to, it'll take time for me to share those. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, I'll share my screen and we will start right now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Naishti Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandaya Cha Nanda Gopala Govindaya Namo. Okay, so last time we covered the history of Vyasadeva and Srila Sukadeva Goswami, his son. And just very quickly, we saw how Suta Goswami is reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam after he had heard it from Sukadeva Goswami to these sages at Naimisharanya. So these are the pictures of Suta Goswami reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we, I think, went through some of these verses. Yes, this is the Atmarama verse where it was described how even the most self-realized souls like Srila Sukadeva Goswami, even they are so attracted to the activities and to hear the activities of the Lord. These activities of the Lord, the description of those attract even the most self-realized persons. So Srila Sukadeva Goswami heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, Srila Vyasadeva. And then we understood the sort of the history of how Vyasadeva was feeling a little dissatisfied after having composed all the Vedas, all the Puranas, the Mahabharata, and so on, because he knew that Kali Yuga is coming and he wanted to make all this Vedic literature available for the benefit of the people in Kali Yuga. And he wanted to keep it ready and prepared for the people so that they can be benefited by reading these scriptures, because it is, this Kali Yuga is going to be a age of no interest in spiritual progress, only material progress, only material sense gratification is going to be the only goal of people in this Kali Yuga. So he wanted to present it in a way so that it can last very long into Kali Yuga. It is said that, after many, many years into Kali Yuga, even these Vedic literatures will be lost. And towards the end of Kali Yuga, nobody will have access to these. But Vyasadeva wanted to make it available for as long as possible so that people can get benefited in this Kali Yuga. And then he was still feeling dissatisfied after doing so much of composition. And then he was thinking, why am I feeling dissatisfied? And then he was meditating on on the feet of his guru, Narada Muni, and Narada Muni appeared and asked him, what is giving you so much dissatisfaction? And he said, you tell me, you know everything about everyone in this universe. So Narada Muni started telling him that you have not you have composed all these literatures which describe all the systems of yoga very nicely, and you have very nicely explained dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, and that whole cycle of the four main principles of prescribed duties and of liberation within this, from this material world. But you have not glorified devotional service unto Lord Hari, unto Lord Krishna. So because you have not done that, that is why you are feeling dissatisfied, and you should do that. And you should do that in a very, very vivid and very, very strong way, so that people just can't miss it. You have described it. It is, of course, the essence of the Vedas, but it is hidden somewhere. It's not very apparent. It's not coming out straightforwardly. So compose something where people will just get bhakti right from the first word till the last word. They just will not be able to, should not be able to miss it. And glorifying Lord Hari is the only way of making spiritual progress in the Kali Yuga. And then he goes on to describe his own life. He says, let me tell you how I glorified Lord Hari in my life. So he goes on to tell his story. So we'll leave this picture here, and I'll narrate the story of Narada Muni from his past life. And at this point, we are in chapter 5 of Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the narration of Narada Muni's story of his own past life starts from the verse number 23 in chapter 5. So we will, and then it goes on into chapter 6. So that is the intent of today's discussion, to describe the past life of Narada Muni and how he glorified Lord Hari throughout his previous life, and the importance of glorifying the name and the qualities of Lord Hari. And you will see how one can gain peace from the most troublesome, from the biggest calamities that one can face in his or her life. So a very, very instructive and um, very heart-touching discussion. So Narad Muni says that in my previous life, I was the son of a maidservant in an ashram. So this is the picture you can see here. I've just Googled for these pictures. I found some pictures and put them together. I just like, kind of doing this whole sort of, spending my time like this. So these are just some pictures that I found. Um, Nothing special or much special about them, except for the fact that these are from Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what makes them special. So he says, I was the son of a maidservant. And as a maidservant, I was just, tending to the whoever was the caretaker of the ashram. And various sages would come to stay in the ashram as they were passing by. It was like, you can think of it like a, little motel or hotel of the Vedic times. And he was just serving his mother, like a, small boy. So here, you see here, just a small boy serving the sages who would come and, have a small resting time at the ashram. So in the Vedic culture, during the autumn and rainy season, the 4 months of the year, the sages don't travel, they just stay put at one place. So at one time, some sages came and they were staying in this ashram for a longer period of time. And he was very beautifully engaged in their service. Here's another nice picture. You can see this little boy over here, and the sages, doing their devotional activities. That's his mother. There's a little well behind. So he was serving his mother, he was serving the sages. He was a very obedient boy, not a naughty boy, not just interested in playing, but helping his mother. And the sages, one time, these sages that arrived, they were very, very self-realized souls. They were very pure sages, uh, self-realized completely. They were Vedantists, they were pure devotees of the Lord. So he served them very nicely. Of course, his mother also served the sages. He also served the sages very nicely. And he used to eat their remnants also. Whatever the sages would leave, he would eat the remaining food. And that was wonderful prasad for him. So just by eating that prasad, he got so much spiritual benefit. So he associated with the sages. He would sit down and he would listen to their discussions. The sages saw that this boy is so interested. They would tell him more things. And he would just sit down, and like this he would enjoy the spiritual discussions and keep absorbing them like a sponge. And he says that, in this way all my sins were eradicated, and I became completely purified, and I became attracted to God. So by associating with the sages, by hearing their discussions, by contemplating, by thinking about them, all his sins were eradicated, and he became purified. So one of the key learnings from here is that by serving the pure devotees, simply by doing seva, not by reading big, big books or anything, just by doing seva to the pure devotees, like here it is being shown, one gets interest in Krishna Bhakti. The desire to make progress in Bhakti Yoga is strengthened. That determination comes about simply by doing seva to the Bhagavatas, to the pure devotees. So anybody remembers a verse from Bhagavad Gita which says that, simply by executing the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, you get an interest, the desire to perform bhakti develops. Does anybody remember? Hmm? Which verse in Bhagavad Gita says that by following the regulative principles, you will develop the desire to do Bhakti Yoga? So this it comes in a very beautiful section of Bhagavad Gita in the 12th chapter. In the 12th chapter, there is the second section where Lord Krishna is saying that simply by remembering me, or remembering me is the highest form of bhakti. But if you cannot remember me, then you must practice the regulative principles of bhakti, and in this way you will develop a desire to attain me. Mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. You will develop a desire. So like that, you can look up 12.9 in Bhagavad Gita. But in this way, he developed such a strong desire to learn more and more about Krishna. So his determination became very strong. His and he realized, he started to realize the teachings, the essence of the teachings of the sages, that everything in this world is a material connection. The truly eternal, long lasting connection is the connection to Krishna. Every other connection is short lived or temporary. And he became very attached to that message. He became very attracted to that message. He became very attracted to the sages themselves. And he was in that way completely purified. And as the sages were leaving, after the rainy season was over, the sages started leaving. And then they instructed him in the highest knowledge, in the topmost knowledge of devotional service, which is love for God, that true deep love for God or for Krishna. And then he really understood what is the meaning of making spiritual progress. So like this, he spent those 4 months of the rainy season. Okay, so now a very beautiful thing comes out in this much portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This whole episode of these 4 months that Narad Muni in his previous life, when he was the son of this maidservant, this 4 months he went through these this whole process of purification and making progress in bhakti, or in making progress in devotional service. Does it ring a bell within the mind of anyone as to what process he went through? Without having actually, the sages, without having actually officially taking him through that process, they naturally took him through that process. And we have discussed this a few times in our Bhagavad Gita classes. So, okay, let me tell you. So these are,
Somebody responded on chat.
what is being said?
Prabhu,
What?
hearing.
So yeah, I can't read the chat right now. So maybe you can read out.
Srini Prabhu, hearing, he's saying.
Hearing, okay. So we have discussed this thing called the 9 stages of bhakti, the 9 progressive stages, one by one, of bhakti, which are very, very beautiful and very important for devotees to understand. And this has been given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, 23rd chapter, verses number 14 and 15. Even the 16th verse is extremely important, but for lack of time, we won't go over it. But these 9 stages of bhakti have been described in the, and these have also been, originally these were written down by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in his Nectar of Devotion, the work that he produced, and which was reproduced by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And these were originally, these instructions, or these 9 stages of bhakti, were originally given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Sanatan Goswami. And Sanatan Goswami told it to Rupa Goswami, who wrote it down in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And then later, uh, um, uh, Chaitan, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami reproduced it in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's how it finds its way into many scriptures. So the 9 stages are Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prema. And I have given the English translations of those 9 stages on the side as well. And as you can see, Narad Muni went through all these stages. Now it's an iterative process. You could be in this stage of Bhajan Kriya and continue to associate with sadhus. You could be doing your anartha nivritti. Anartha nivritti means working on your sinful propensities, on your material propensities, trying to get rid of them, trying to remove them, at the same time associating with the sadhus, doing bhajana, etc. So um, it's not like after you finish one, then you move on to the next. The idea is generally you move from top to bottom, but at a given time you could be doing 2 or 3 of those steps and iterating between them, and generally you kind of keep moving forward. So as you can see, Narad Muni had Shraddha, he had faith. That's why, and that was probably given to him by his mother in that life. Of course, he must have carried with him from his previous life as well. Uh, and then he got a chance to associate with the sadhus. And then he engaged in bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya includes chanting as well as hearing. Both. He was hearing from them, he was discussing with them. All that was bhajana kriya. And then he says himself in one of the verses that all my sinful activities got eradicated, all the sinful propensities in my heart were removed. That is anartha nivritti. So by doing sadhu sangha and bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti happens. Of course, you have to work on your anarthas as well. Plus, the process of sadhu sangha and bhajana kriya helps as well. And of course, you have to engage in bhajana kriya and sadhu sangha. You could be engaging in some other activities. Does not have to be bhajan. There is, limited time that we all have. We can choose to do bhajan, or we can choose to, do something else. So that is our effort, to choose to do sadhu sangha, to choose to do bhajana kriya, and then anartha nivritti happens. And then slowly one develops determination, that is nishtha. So Narad Muni also says that, this made my determination or nishtha very strong. And I started developing attraction and attachment to this whole process of bhakti. That is the ruchi and asakti stage. And while departing, the sages gave him the most confidential instructions of love of Krishna, and that is the bhava and the prema stage. So he went through all these 9 stages in his life. And so I just wanted to show that even though Bhagavatam contains these stories, but there is just so much deep instruction for all of us embedded in that. So he went through all these 9 stages, and here are some very important things that he learned. So there are a couple of very super important verses that I just will read, and we'll just go through some of these very, very beautiful verses from the 5th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the 34th verse. So 34 to 37, 34, 35, 36, and 37, very important verses, where Narad Muni is describing to Vyasadeva what he learned through that process of 4 months. What were his realizations afterwards? And of course, he remembered all of this in his next life as the transcendental servitor, transcendental associate of the Lord, as in his as Narad Muni. He remembered all the things from his previous life. So I'll recite this verse, and once again, I request devotees who are here to volunteer for reciting these verses. I can tell you beforehand, this is an opportunity. I would say this is an opportunity of a lifetime, to be able to read Srimad Bhagavatam, to be able to recite it from your mouth. Where else, or where, in which other life, on which other planet, in which other community or society will you get this opportunity to do this? So this is something I just strongly appeal you to take on. And no pressure. These All this class will be on YouTube and everything. Afterwards, you can recite it. Just make a note of these verses and recite it. Read the meaning, understand the words, the word by word meaning, and so on. So and you can see, here, I am looking at the word by word meaning on my end. I have 2 screens, but I just wanted to, this is just to increase the font. I have made it, but if I lower the font in the notes area, I have the word by word meaning. So when I'm looking at my side of the PowerPoint on my other screen, I am looking at the word by word meaning. This word by word meaning is extremely important. It just brings out the beauty of the verse when you understand every word of a verse. And I have tried to inject these in brackets, some of the important words I have injected here from the verse directly, so that you can appreciate Srila Prabhupada's translation even more. In most of the verses, I have done that, and I plan to do that going forward. So these bracketized things are my insertions from the word-to-word meanings given by Srila Prabhupada. So I'll recite this 5.34.
Megha's husband Som Prabhu is saying, can he read the verse?
Okay, if you can read it nicely, then go ahead. It may need some practice, but unmute yourself.
Prabhuji, I don't know if I'll be able to tell nicely, but I don't mind giving an attempt, and you could tell me how it goes.
Okay, let's see how you do in the first one, and then we'll go ahead with the next.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Evam runam kriya yogaha sarvam samshruti hetavah ta eva atma vinashaya kalpante kalpitaha pare.
Okay, that was very nice.
Translation. Shall I go ahead with the translation, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Okay. Thus, when all a man's activities, Kriya Yoga, are dedicated to the service of the Lord, Kalpita Pare, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work. Hare Krishna.
So once again, evam rinam kriya yogaha sarve samsriti hetavaha ta eva atma vinashaya kalpante kalpitah pare. So the translation is, thus when all of a man's activities, that's the kriya yoga, evam rinam, so nrina means the man, the human beings or the men, kriya yoga, all the work that they are doing, if that is dedicated to the service of the Lord, if that is dovetailed or dedicated, kalpita means to dovetail or to dedicate it to pare means to the transcendence, to the transcendental Lord, then those activities which cause the bondage, because activities cause bondage, whether you get sinful reaction or pious reaction, they are both binding. We have read this numerous times in Bhagavad Gita that they are both binding. You can read it in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You can read it in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. All activities are binding. But when they are dedicated to Krishna, they become the destroyer of that bondage. Those activities become they disentangle you from the material world. So which verse in the Bhagavad Gita very strongly says this exact thing? Almost the exact thing is said in Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna. Anybody? Very famous verse. It's in the 9th chapter. Towards the later portion. So, you all must, remember some of these important verses from Bhagavad Gita. If, this is very important to remember some of these, key instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. It's very good to apply them. I'm sure many of you or all of you are applying it, but also with the knowledge that, Krishna said that, and therefore I'm applying. Sometimes we keep applying and it becomes mechanical. We lose sight of why we are doing it. We must try to keep that in our consciousness as well. So anyway, anybody has been able to figure out? So it is the 27th verse of the 9th chapter, which says, Yad karoshi, yad ashnashi, yad juhoshi, dadasi yad tapasyasi kaunteya, tad kurushva mad arpanam. So whatever you do, yad karoshi, whatever you, yad ashnashi, whatever you eat, yad juhoshi, dadasiyat, whatever you give, yad tapasyasi, whatever austerities you perform, tad kurushva, that you do, kuru means to do, mad arpanam, do it as an offering to me. So that is the verse which, just whatever you are doing, you don't have to change what you are doing, just dedicate it to Krishna and becomes Bhakti Yoga. So that is the one learning from that Narada Muni got. Okay, we'll move fast. This next verse 35 is giving the core meaning of Bhakti Yoga. And you can see Bhakti Yoga is in the verse itself. Would anybody or you like to read, Mataji?
Prabhuji, I can read, but if others wants to, I think I'm open. I think it'll be
Anybody
nice.
wants to take a shot? Is feeling confident?
Others wants to go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
can
try. Go ahead. Huh?
Medha Mataji.
Yes, go ahead, Medha Mataji.
यदत्र क्रियते कर्म भागवत परितोषणम ज्ञानम यत्तद अधीनम हि Bhakti Yoga Samanvitam.
Very nice. Thank you. Whatever work is done here in this life, yat atra kriyate karma, yat atra means here. So whatever work you are doing here in this life, for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord, Bhagavat Paritoshanam, is called Bhakti Yoga. So anything that you are doing in this world that is meant to satisfy the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. Jnanam tadyad adhinam hi. Jnana just becomes like a byproduct. So you don't have to pursue jnana, just pursue bhakti. And by performing bhakti, you will get the benefits of jnana, dhyana yoga automatically is given right here in this verse. It's a byproduct. By doing jnana yoga, bhakti yoga is not a byproduct. But by doing bhakti yoga, you get everything else, all those things. Plus, you get the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Next verse. Now, this is describing what kind of work to do. What does it mean to do work, or how to please the Lord? This verse is going to give a very to-do list, like a prescription, not just the theory, but very practically what you can do. Any takers?
I can try Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Okay,
Don't be shy. There are a lot of.
everybody is feeling shy.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can give a try.
yes.
Kurvana yatra karmani bhagavata shikshaya asukrit gunanti gunanamani krishnasya anusmaranti cha.
Very nice. Now, I want to ask you one thing, Shilpa Mataji. Did you read the Devanagari or the English transliteration?
Devanagari.
The
Marathi.
Devanagari. Okay, very good. So I'll just tell you a trick that I do. I have a little mechanism to break up. If you look at the Devanagari in the Veda base, it is all joined up in many places. I break up the Devanagari into smaller words myself through editing, and through it's a complex process that I do. But if you compare this Devanagari to the one in Veda base, you will find certain differences, but I break it up so it is much easier, at least for me and those who know Devanagari script, to read it much easily directly from the Devanagari. So just a trick I do to make this verse reading much easier for myself. But it's a manual process that I go through, and I just enjoy spending time in these things. So just wanted to share with you. If you want to do, you can do it.
Sure, Prabhuji. I would like to.
So while performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, so doing those things that Krishna has told, Bhagavat Shikshaya. So the Shiksha means to the instructions. Instructions of whose? Bhagavat. So Bhagavat Shikshaya, which means doing the things which Krishna has asked us to do. That if you do, so by performing the duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, Bhagavat Shikshaya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his names, Namani, and Guna, his qualities. So Lord Krishna has so many devotional, so many transcendental, so many spiritual qualities. So you remember him, you remember his names, you chant his names, you chant his glories, and you perform the duties of, or you perform the actions that Lord Krishna has asked us to do. So one of the actions that Lord Krishna wants us to do is to spread his message. He says that in the Bhagavad Gita 18.68. And many other instructions are there in the Bhagavad Gita. So we must chant his names, we must remember him, and we must do the activities that Krishna has told us to do. All those things we must do. So that is the instruction that Narada Muni got. And this is the final one. This is just a glorification of the various names of the Lord. These happen to be the four plenary expansions of the Lord, but we won't go into that topic today. But anybody, any takers for this verse?
Can I read it, Prabhuji?
Yes. I don't know who said, but yes, please go ahead. And maybe you can tell your name.
I'm Sheetal.
Hare Krishna, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Aniruddhaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha.
Beautiful, very nice. So let us chant the glories of four personalities are given here, four names, and these happen to be the four plenary expansions of Lord Krishna. Vasudeva, along with his plenary expansions, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshana. Pretty straightforward. The word Dhimahi is very important here. It means to remember, to meditate upon. Okay. So, meditate or chant. Chanting is also a form of meditation. Obviously, we say when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, when we are doing our japa, that is mantra meditation. Okay, wonderful. So now we will go on to the 6th chapter. So, therefore, Vyasadeva says you must describe the glories of Lord Krishna in great detail, and then you will feel satisfaction. Otherwise, you will keep feeling this dissatisfaction. So, Vyasadeva then asks him, okay, I understand that. And you told me that you were the son of the maidservant and you got these instructions from the sages, but he was curious at this point. Tell me more. What happened to you in that rest of that life? So he asks him questions. What happened after that? So Narada Muni continues to describe his rest of his life. So now comes some very, I was reading in a particular commentary that Narada Muni didn't want to sort of, or this was his pastimes. He made Vyasadeva ask these questions. The reason is to bring out the fact that how important it is to focus on bhakti, on hearing and chanting and those 9 stages of devotional service, having faith in Krishna and his scriptures and his words, associating with pure devotees, engaging in the process of bhajana kriya, which is hearing and chanting, and anartha nivritti. So for beginning stages, for beginning people, you can start with the first 4. Don't worry about the later 5. Let me just go back to these 9 stages. Just, oops, where did they go? Oh, right here. Just focus on the first 4 for now. For those who are in the beginning stages, don't worry about being determined from day one or developing the attraction for Krishna or the bhava. Just focus on the first 4, which is association of sadhus, having faith in their words, performing hearing and chanting, and removing our anarthas or our sinful or material sense gratification propensities. Just focus on these for now. So we will see the beauty of oops, where am I? Oh, okay, we'll just leave it there. So Vyasadeva, let me leave it on this particular picture so you can see how he was serving the sages. Okay, so he says that after they left, again, my mother and I became alone, and I was the only child of my mother. There were no brothers and sisters. And basically, we both were each other's protection. My mom was dependent on me as a small child, but I was the only one she had. And she was the only one I had. So we were both each other's protection. So you can imagine the love between mother and child and how much they supported each other. They were very poor. They didn't have anything much. And they were just dependent. All they really had was each other. That's all they had. And he says she loved me a lot, but she had to do her maidservant work. She was a servant. So she couldn't spend a lot of time with me. She had a lot of desire to tell me good things, to give me a good education, to do all these things. But she was a poor maidservant. She couldn't do all these things, but still she was trying to do the best she could. So this is just, Narad Muni is painting a picture of how much love was there between mother and son, and how much they were dependent on each other. And then one night, Calamity struck. And so her mother was going to milk a cow in the night, or it was dark, maybe the late evening time or whatever. And she must have stepped on a snake, and she didn't see, and the snake bit her, and it was a very poisonous snake, and she died. So after a long time, when her mother didn't come back, he went to look for his mother, and he found her dead in the forest, or not in the forest, but in the backyard, or wherever, the cow shed was, between the ashram and the cow shed. Somewhere or the other, she died. And you can imagine, the calamity, the amount of um, catastrophe, or the feeling of loss that Narad Muni in his previous life as a boy must have felt. So, how should the good thing was, he had received those instructions from the sages by then. So he knew how to deal with those calamities. And this is a very, very important point for us. How many of us, I would like to maybe by a show of hands or something, have faced a very severe calamity in our lives? Very severe. Not like I fell sick and then I was in the hospital for 3 days and I got my antibiotics and I was out. Not that. Like severe, like Narad Muni. I cannot say that I have. Luckily, I've had a pretty, you know happy life so far. To this level, there are of course some distresses, some problems are always there, but not to this level. Anybody? Did anybody raise their hands?
I saw someone hand is like lowered now.
Okay. Well, I pray that none of you go through such calamities at all. But if you have gone through, if somebody has gone through this severe amount of calamity, maybe that person will be able to appreciate this even more. Maybe this instruction from today will be much, much more impactful and way more significant for that person. And for those who have not gone through it, this is a great time to take this instruction, so that there is no guarantee that such a calamity will not fall on anyone. It's a wonderful opportunity to take the shelter of this instruction, so that by whatever, by our past actions or past karma or whatever offenses that we may have done, we receive such calamities, how to take them, how to accept them, how to deal with them. So this is a wonderful instruction for that. So one should be prepared in this way, like Narad Muni was prepared. So it's a very, very important verse, and this is the 10th verse of the 6th chapter of the first canto. Let's go through that verse. So 6.10, 1.6.10. Any takers? We have to move quickly.
I can try, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Tada tad aham isasya bhaktanam sam avipsata anugraham manyamanah pratishtam disham uttaram.
Wonderful. Very nice.
So,
And which one did you read, the Devanagari or the English?
the Devanagari one, Prabhuji.
Okay, very good.
Oh.
I took this as a special mercy. Anugraham manyamanah. Manyamanah. Manya means to assume or to take it like that. Manaha means I took it in my mind. So I understood it in that way. Manyamanaha anugraham. Anugraham means as a special benediction or a special mercy of the Lord. Ishasya. So I took it as a special. So who can take such a big calamity as a mercy of the Lord? It is unheard of. Taking such a huge, his mother was the only one he had and was all he had. He didn't have a big insurance policy or no, nothing. So he took this, his loss of his mother, as a mercy of the Lord. And he had that faith. This is where faith is shaken. So many people's faith is shaken. And we have, at least I have not seen, probably I can say I've seen some people in real life, but we see so many in movies or stories. When something bad happens, people just abandon God. I have no faith in God left. I abandon him. There is no God in this world. They abandon Krishna. But here he took it as, instead of abandoning, bhaktanam shama. Bhaktanam shama abhipsataha, which means that Krishna is abhipsata, means desires the benefit. He's the benefactor. He's merciful to his devotees. So that faith was there, that whatever is happening, it is happening for a good reason. And he took it in that way. And so thinking, I started for the north. Pratishtham Disham Uttaram, started going towards the northern side, towards the Himalayas or wherever. So that was his mood. So by this spiritual instruction, one can learn how to deal with these calamities. Okay. So he continued sharing, Narada Muni, that I passed through many cities, many villages, many forests, many valleys, many mountains, many hills. He kept traveling for days and days and days. Saw so many bees and birds and, all the nice animals. And not just nice things, just like, hills and mountains and rivers, but also very difficult things like deep forests. Even in the daytime, it was dark in the forest because the forest was so dense that even the sunlight couldn't reach the ground. And some places the grass was very sharp, very dry and sharp. Try walking sometimes on dry grass with no shoes. You can't even take one step. Your foot will start bleeding. So very sharp grass or very deep forests and deep caves. And there were jackals and wolves and, owls and all these snakes and, all these wild animals. It was very tough. It wasn't just very rosy. So, but anyway, he had full faith in God and he kept moving forward, kept going, kept going. And like this, he kept contemplating, what should I do next? And then he remembered the instructions from the sages that he had received to focus on the Paramatma inside one's heart. Paramatma resides in all our hearts. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesheshu Arjuna Tisthati, 18.61. That the Ishvara, I as the Ishvara, sits in the heart of every living entity. Brahmayanti sarvabhutanam yantra rudhani mayaya. I'm probably mixing up some words, but that's 18.61. So Lord Krishna is sitting in our hearts as the Paramatma. And he remembered that one should focus on that Paramatma. So he sat down under a banyan tree. He took a bath in a river, sat down under a banyan tree and started to meditate on the Paramatma. And after meditating on Paramatma for and it is said not for a very long time, we don't know how much time, but fairly soon enough he started experiencing unlimited love, unlimited ecstasy in his heart, and tears rolled down from his eyes. And suddenly he could see the Paramatma sitting on his heart. So with his eyes closed, he could clearly see Paramatma. He could see Lord Vishnu, the four-handed form of Lord Vishnu, sitting inside his heart. And that vision was so beautiful. So beautiful. Somebody was asking me recently, what is beautiful, or how can Lord be so beautiful, or what is the meaning of beauty? He saw that Lord was so beautiful, and he completely, was uh, absorbed in looking at the Lord, at the Paramatma inside the heart, that he forgot everything else, and he kind of, uh, for a moment he could not see himself or the Lord, it is said. And every part of his body was flowing with joy, was flowing with ecstasy. And in a moment, that vision was finished and he couldn't see anything. And he was shocked. He was kind of brought out of his meditation. And he said, what happened? Where did that beautiful vision go away? And he was immediately became very anxious, very sad, very disappointed that why can't I see the Lord? And he tried again. Okay, let me do the meditation again, whatever formula he had applied earlier, so to say. He thought, now let me try to apply the same, let me do the same thing. And many times he tried, and he could not see the Lord, and he was so sad that not being able to see Krishna. So another very important learning from here is that we cannot see Krishna simply by our effort. Our effort is required. And we can see how Narada Muni, took the instructions of the sages to heart. That was the first effort. He didn't get agitated. He didn't lose faith in Krishna. And he sat down under a banyan tree and started meditating. So all that is part of his effort, and then he could see. But when he retried that process, then he could not see. So both are needed, our own effort as well as Lord's mercy. Both are needed for us to receive or to be able to see the Lord. So, however, he kept persisting. He kept trying to see the Lord again and again and again. And the Lord was aware what he's doing. So he just spoke to him through sound. So he could hear the sound of the Lord this time. So he heard the sound of the Lord. So again, we can see when we have a deep determination, deep desire, the Lord will somehow give us an indication that he is watching. It's not like he just disappeared and he doesn't even know that you are trying. The Lord knows every single thing that we are doing. We may think that he doesn't know or doesn't care. That's our fault. He is always looking. He is always watching over us. So he spoke to Narada Muni and said that you will not be able to see me again. And your service, your devotional service in this life is still incomplete. It's not fully completed yet. And because of the progress that you made in devotional service, you were able to see me once. And I came in front of you and then did not come again. I disappeared myself. I took myself away. Why? There is a specific reason he gave why I disappeared. So that your desire to see me, your hankering will increase. Those who were there yesterday with us in the Bhakti Vriksha, we were summarizing the chapters, the 5 chapters of the Rasa Leela. In just quick summary we did, because we are not qualified. I'm not qualified to go through the details of those chapters at all. But some key learnings we just learned, and then we moved forward. And one of the key learnings was that Lord Krishna says he disappears from the midst of the gopis. Um, um, and then later he reveals to them why he disappeared, because he wanted to increase their intensity of loving Krishna, of having Krishna with them. And that is the intensity that we need to have in our heart as well, to desire to have Krishna, to be with Krishna, to associate with him, to take his name, to go near him, to see him, to serve him. That deep desire, that hankering needs to be there in our heart. And this is very strongly brought out here in this particular verse. And very, very sweet verse is there. 2 verses are there, 22 and 23. I will. I think it's already 7:05. Any takers for these two very quickly?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I read it once again?
Yes, go ahead. And which one do you read, the Devanagari or the transliteration?
Devanagari Prabhuji.
Okay, I forgot. Sorry, I think you said that earlier. Okay, go ahead.
Sakrudyat darshitam rupam etat kamayate nagha mat kamaha shanakai sadhu sarvan munchatti pruchhayan.
Very nice. Oh, virtuous one, you have only once seen my person. Sakrit darshitam rupam. Sakrit means to see it once. So you have seen once, darshitam, to see rupam. So you have seen my form once. And this is just to increase your desire for me. Kamayate. Kama means, it doesn't just, kama doesn't mean, a bad, in a bad sense. When you have strong desire for Krishna, kama just means strong desire. If it is for sense gratification, then it becomes a bad thing, or it stops our devotional or spiritual progress. But kama for the Lord is a good thing, as the Lord himself is saying here. This is the sound of the Lord Vishnu to Narada Muni. So Lord is talking to Narada Muni here, and he's saying that you could see me once, just so that your desire for me is increased. Because the more you hanker for me, kama shanakaihi. Shanakaihi means to increase your kama, your desire, to gradually to keep on increasing. Because the more you will desire for me, the more you will be muchyanti. Muchyanti means liberated, or you will be free from the material desires. So by hankering for Krishna, our hankering for material desires goes down. So the more we hanker for Krishna, the less we hanker for material things. So the learning here is, try and develop that hankering for Krishna. Miss Krishna, miss, like you, when your family goes away to India or whatever, for 2 months or whatever, or if you go away from your family, there's a desire to see the family members or whatever, like that. You miss your family members. Like that, we must try to miss Krishna in this life, because he's not there with us, but we can miss him. That strong missing is what is being referred to here. And then the next verse is very beautiful, where Lord Krishna is saying that by serving Krishna for even a small amount of time, there is a word, very nice word, dirghaya. Dirgha means a long time. They say dirghayu bhava, may you have a long life. Dirgha ayu. Dirgha means short time. So not very long time, very short time. When you do devotional service of Krishna, then the devotee achieves strong faith. Dridhamati. You can see here dridhamati. So one gets strong faith in his mind to do devotional service to me, and then he becomes my associate. Mat janatam. Janata means my janata, or my associate. That's the meaning. You become my associate. So by doing devotional service, you become um, you become fixed in devotional service. By doing some service, you become very fixed. Your intelligence becomes fixed, and you become my transcendental associate. So that is the meaning here. Anybody wants to read this? Okay, I will read.
I can try, Prabhuji.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sat sevaya adhirgaya api jata mai dridhamati hitva avadayam imam lokam ganta maja janatam asi.
Yeah, mad janatam asi. Thank you very much. Sat sevaya adhir gaya api jata mai dridha mati hitva avadayam imam lokam ganta mad janatam asi. By service of the absolute truth, even for a few days. This adirghaya, Srila Prabhupada is translating into even a few days. A devotee, so by doing the service of the absolute truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains firm faith or attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. Jata mai dridha matihi. Mati means intelligence. Consequently, he goes on to become my associate, mat janatam, my associate in the transcendental world. And after giving up the present material, deplorable material worlds, avadayam imam lokan. Hitva means to give up. Avadayam imam lokam, this deplorable or this useless material world. After giving this up, you become mat janata. You become my janta or my associate. So like that, Narad Muni is saying that this is the Akashvani. This is what he heard from Lord Vishnu. And so you will go on to become my associate. Your remembrance will continue. You will continue to remember me all the time. And then the voice stopped. So then Narad Muni says, I paid my obeisances. I was completely satisfied. Remember, he was very disappointed because he could not see the Lord again. And he kept trying. But afterwards, he heard this voice of the Lord. He became very satisfied and very peaceful. And he got very nice instructions as well. So what he started doing, he just, unabashedly, without any concern for any formalities or what he will think, what she will think, what the whole world will think of me. Am I crazy? No holds barred, nothing. He simply started singing and glorifying the name and glories of the Lord. And he did not care for any formalities of the world, any etiquettes or anything. He just went on a one pointed agenda to glorify, to sing and glorify the names, qualities, the guna and nama of the Lord. And with humility, with that is very important. He says with humility. It's not like, hey, I have come to glorify the Lord, come on, you have to sit and listen. Not like that. With humility. So there is a fine line, humility, but boldly, but without any uh, formalities or without, so executing your pure devotional service in that way. And he says that he spent the rest of his life like this. And finally, after spending his life for some time, he passed away. He met with death. And then he was awarded a transcendental body. In his next life, he became a transcendental associate of the Lord. And he entered the world, the universe, on the next day of Brahma, when the creation happens again. One boy, small boy, was asking me yesterday about creation. So it was very nice, very small boy. Very nice question. He was asking, how is creation happening and all that. So it was very pleasing to hear. So when the creation was happening, Narad Muni entered into the material world through the nose, through the breathing of Brahma. So when Brahmaji breathed out, Narad Muni came. That's why Narad Muni is called the son of Brahma, because he came out. But Brahmaji did not have a wife. So it's not like he Narad Muni was just born from the breathing, from the nostril of Brahma. So like that, Narad Muni appeared. And he appeared, he says, so that he could help the people in this world. So as soon as he left his body, he had already become an associate of the Lord. This is very important, another very important learning. He attained spiritual world. He was liberated, so to say, moksha, and all those. He did not have to come back to this material world. You can ask, why did Narad Muni come back if he was liberated after his death? He was actually liberated. He became an associate of the Lord, Mad Janata. It's written here, Mad Janata. The Lord, he became an associate of the Lord. Why did he come back? Because the Lord wants his pure devotees sometimes to come to the material world to help us. So we should not consider these great acharyas, these great saints. Now, of course, we must differentiate between who is a great acharya, great saint, and a fake sannyasi or a babaji or guru. Or there are so many fake people. We can talk about that sometime later. But these acharyas come here to serve the Lord. We should not think they are here because of their past life, past karma. They have not been purified yet. That's why they have a body. All those logic applies to us, not to them. So they come here simply to help us, like ambassadors of Krishna. So other examples are given by Narada Muni, like rishis like Marichi, Angira, Atri. They all appeared in this world to help the common people. And so he also came and he said, I could travel anywhere from this planet to that planet, to that planet, to that planet. He's like, Srila Prabhupada calls him the transcendental spaceman, Narada Muni. So he can travel anywhere and always singing the glories of the Lord. We see him in movies, Narayana, Narayan. That's all he keeps saying. Narayan's name on his veena. He always carries his veena with him. And like that, he keeps chanting the glories of the Lord. And this chanting of, this is a very beautiful verse, and almost we are coming to a close. This chanting of the holy name of the Lord is the boat. If we sit in that boat, we can cross this ocean of Bhavasagar, this material, this ocean of material anxieties can be easily crossed. Any takers for this verse, 34?
I can go, Prabhuji.
Yes,
If
please.
anyone is not doing it. Etadhyatura matra sparsha ichhaya muhu bhava sindhu plavo drishto haricharya anuvarnanam.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. Very nice. So the translation is, it is personally experienced by me that those who are always full of cares and anxieties due to desiring contact of the senses with their objects, so which means those who are full of uh, sense feelings for sense gratification, always keep desiring. So here I haven't put the Sanskrit words here. I forgot to do it for this words. Atura chittanam matra sparsha ichhaya muhu. So atura chittanam means whose minds are full of, chitta means mind, and atur means just constantly troubled, constantly just thinking here and there, anxious, not stable, on sense objects, on matra sparsha. So on these sense objects and desires, ichhayamuhu, always just focusing on this and this and this and this, they can get benefit. They can cross this ocean. How they can cross this ocean? By Hari Charya Anuvarnanam. So Hari Charya means the glories, the achara, all the activities of Hari. Hari Charya Anuvarnanam means to describe or to glorify or to keep reciting. So by doing all this, they can do what? They can Bhava Sindhu Plavavo. Plava means, as all of you might know from very various verses, Plava means a boat. They can, this Haricharya Anuvardanam, this constant remembrance and glorification of Hari becomes the boat on which they can cross the Bhava Sindhu. Bhava Sindhu means this ocean of material world. So they can cross this world simply by chanting the transcendental activities, Haricharya, of the personality of Godhead, Hari. And last verse here, and says that, okay, anybody, any takers? So here it says that you can get rid of desires and lust and other bad qualities by the process of Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and others. But you cannot get satisfaction of the soul without bhakti, without Mukunda Sewa. Mukunda is Lord Krishna. Without Mukunda Seva, without serving, without devotional service to Mukunda, you do not get that satisfaction of the soul. That can only come by Mukunda Seva. So you can get other things by other processes of yoga, but not that satisfaction of the heart. And that is the missing feeling that Vyasadeva was having. Why am I not feeling satisfied? Because he had glorified all these other activities, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga, and how to get moksha and all those things. And Mukunda Seva, which is bhakti basically, was embedded deep inside. And therefore he was not feeling satisfied. And this is the final instruction here, that only by Mukunda Seva you get full satisfaction of the heart. And the instruction for Vyasadeva is, when you glorify Lord Krishna, Mukunda, then you will also get full satisfaction of the heart. So any takers for this one?
I can take, Prabhuji.
Yes. Who is that?
This is Kalyani.
Yes, go ahead.
यमादिभिर्योगपधैः कामलोभहतो मुहुः मुकुन्दसेवया यद्वत् तथा आत्मा अदधान शाम्यति.
Very nice. Thank you. And which one did you read, just for my curiosity?
First 3 lines I read from Devanagari, from English, Prabhuji. The last one I read from Devanagari.
Yeah, this word, as you can see, is a little complex, but I broke it up into tatha atma adadha. Adha na shamyati. Na shamyati. So it is true that by practicing restraint of the senses by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul. For this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead, Mukunda Sevaya. So this is the final instruction from this chapter, and then we come back after this. So I think this is the last slide I have. Yes. And then the scene shifts back to this scene. Suta Goswami, he starts saying, so, we come kind of, go into that scene, and then finally the scene comes back to Naimisharanya, where Suta Goswami begins to tell, or not, completes the story, saying that then Narada Muni left, and they all glorified, all the rishis sitting there, Shaunaka Adi Rishi and Suta Goswami, they all glorified Narada Muni. And why did they glorify Narada Muni? The only quality of Narada Muni is that he glorifies Hari. That's the sole quality that makes him eligible for receiving our glorification to Narada Muni. That's the best thing. You don't need to do anything else. Just glorify Hari, and whoever glorifies Hari is the object of our glorification. So all the Shaunaka-adi rishis were glorifying Narada Muni because he glorifies Hari. And it is said that Narada Muni gets so much pleasure out of glorifying Hari, and he gives this message to others, because those who glorify Hari, their distresses and their miseries are also removed and they become enlivened, just like Narada Muni when he faced the calamity. So that is the end of the story here and that's also the end of the 6th chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That also concludes the description of the past life of Narada Muni and how he became this, so to say, transcendental spaceman. So, Narada Muni ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So that was today's discussion. It's 7:25 or 7:24. We have few minutes. Any reflections, any comments, corrections, anything? What did you like? What did you not like? What are you inspired by from here to do in your life? What did you get from here, today's discussion, that you want to apply in your life? Anything you want to speak? This is open time.
So I had a question, Prabhuji, not on today's class, actually the last class. So Sukadeva Goswami's age, when he sort of meets Prahlad Maharaj, is very young, right? And
Parikshit Maharaj, you mean?
Parikshit Maharaj, sorry. This is
Yes,
very young. And what he shares has profound wisdom, sort of, right? And
you can see here, very young boy.
Correct. So, but I was relating it to, in my mind, to even Jnaneshwari. So Jnaneshwar, who's the Maharashtrian saint, when he wrote Jnaneshwari, which is the Marathi version of the Bhagavad Gita, was also 16 or 17. In fact, he takes Samadhi before, I think, 21. So how do these people have such a lot of wisdom? It's not just knowledge, right? It's not that they have studied or whatever. It is a lot of life wisdom.
Jnanam and Vijnanam.
Correct. At
the
such
theoretical
a young
knowledge
age.
as well as realized knowledge.
Yes, yes. So for people with such less life experience, how do they have so much?
Because we are considering their life to be less, as in from the time when they popped out of the mother's womb. In Bhagavad Gita, life is very long and goes back so many lives. Why did Narada Muni become a transcendental spaceman? He came out of the nostril of Brahma. What had he done to deserve that? Well, we saw in his past life, what did he do? And in the discussion that we had last week, Sukadeva Goswami, was that we said he was that transcendental parrot. So he was already a transcendental personality, and I think I mentioned the name of one scripture that I had heard from some very wonderful devotees called Vrindavan. I can't remember where this is described, but Lord Krishna told this parrot that whatever you have learned from me, or this parrot was basically a transcendental parrot transmitting messages between Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna. So he knew all those, the wonderful conversations between them, which is very transcendental, very sweet. So he was a very knowledgeable parrot. I'm just kind of trying to answer your question. Of course, there is very deep meanings behind these, but just at a superficial level. And when Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani were going back to the spiritual world, they told this parrot, you must stay here in this material world so that you can describe these wonderful pastimes to other people. And that was Sukadeva Goswami. So that's what we have heard, at least I have heard. And that gives me satisfaction that this is how Sukadeva Goswami, that's the purpose for which he was, he came to this planet. He's also a transcendental associate of Lord Krishna, like we just said. And his purpose was to disseminate the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the stage was already set for him, for Parikshit Maharaj to go through that whole episode, which we also discussed, how he happened to, get cursed by the Brahmana boy and, desired to spend the last 7 days of his life hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And there arrives Sukadeva Goswami right at the right time, to describe Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and he had heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from his father as well. That was also, we discussed. So not only was he a transcendental personality already, he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from Srila Vyasadeva as well. So all these things, I think, should give one pretty good understanding of how Sukadeva Goswami is so elevated. At least I feel satisfied. I don't know about you.
No, I like this. And even the example you gave today of, like the saints coming into this universe because the Lord wants them to sort of the message to be propagated, right?
Yeah,
like for Jnaneshwar Maharaj, I think,
associates, so they know all the knowledge.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you for.
Krishna can transmit the knowledge in just like in the heart. It doesn't have to go through.
Yeah, you don't have to take a 6-month course or anything like that. Krishna can transmit the knowledge in just 1 second or less than a second, Tene Hridaya Brahm. What's that? Anyone?
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye.
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. That this knowledge was first spoken by Lord Krishna into the heart, was transmitted into the heart of Brahmaji. Muhyantiyat Surayat. So that's the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Nishtha has raised
Huh?
Nishtha and Mataji.
Yes, Nishtha, you have a
and her mom.
comment. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, lovely class, Prabhu. My mom and I, we were just talking about reflecting kind of like how hardships and like when you're sick, really you remember the Lord more, and like how exalted Narada Muni was like after such a traumatic thing to like have like such unflinching faith in Krishna. We found that very inspiring, and yeah.
Yes, that was probably for me also the highlight of the whole thing, that how to deal with calamities. And Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita give us the strength to deal with anything, because we know that Lord is there with us. Wonderful. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Anything else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So in this whole session, there are many things which I liked and enjoyed. Main two things I liked more, or I am planning to practice more on that. One is Namasmaran, and another thing is like just keep trying again and again, not giving up. The way Narada Muni did, that Aturtha and Utkantha, I don't know, these are Marathi words, but basically Vyakulta. With the intense, he was looking for Krishna's voice, or to making sure at least reaching to Krishna. So I like that part a lot. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yes, yes. With determination, we should be determined in spiritual life. Determination in spiritual life is very important, and not just emotional, that, oh, I'm just, love is flowing out of my heart. Love means determination. Ask a mother. You are a mother. It's not just emotion and all that. It requires determination. You have to give food to your child every day. You cannot say one day, oh, today love is flowing out of my heart, but I don't want to cook. No, you have to get up and cook. You have to clean. You have to do all the things. Love means determined effort as well. So yes, in Bhagavad Gita also there are two verses where Dridha Vrata is used, that with determination devotees make progress in devotional service. 9.14 is a very famous verse where it says, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha drahvrataah namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. So Satatam kirtayanto mam, always kirtayanto, always singing my glories, mam. Yatantascha dridhavrataah, they make endeavor, yatantascha dridhavrataah, with determination. Dridha vrata, vrata means a vow, dridha means strong. With strong or determined vows, with rules and regulations, they make progress, not just emotion. And there's another verse where Lord Krishna says, 7.28, bhajante mam te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrataah. That after getting rid of all their sinful propensities, they become very determined in devotional service. So yes, we must constantly be practicing and determined. And practice means falling. When you practice, you fall, but you get up and try again. Get up and try again. Wonderful.
Prabhuji, I don't know if it's too late. Maybe we can do some other time. Prabhu, I just remembered at the very start of the class, when Narman says in the 25th verse of 6th chapter, only once by their permission I took the remnants of their food, of the Mahaprasad of the Bhakti Vedantas. I just remembered one passage from Srila Prabhupada. It's a very, and Shrutakirti Prabhu has told the pastime. I'm pretty sure you know the pastime as well. If you can.
The airplane hostess, that one?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, please go ahead, narrate it.
No, but please, you read
You
wonderfully.
go ahead.
So I'll try to make it short. This shows the potency of Mahaprasada or Mahaprasadam, or the remnants of a pure devotee, eating, honoring the remnants of a pure devotee. Prabhupada was traveling to Venezuela in the Venezuelan Airlines, and Prabhupada had two servants with him, Shrutikirti Prabhu and Paramahansa Maharaj. And Prabhupada was always used to take some prasadam with him. And during that time, when traveling to Venezuela, some devotees from its source destination, source, gave Prabhupada some murmura, puffed rice. And so Prabhupada, as soon as the seatbelt sign went off, Prabhupada's servant Shrutikirti Prabhu just put the table tray down and got ready to serve Prabhupada the prasadam. And he gave Prabhupada the prasadam, and Prabhupada ate some handful of them. And then Prabhupada said, "No, you eat." So Shrutikirti Prabhu then, divided the Mahaprasadam into two and gave one to Paramahansa Maharaj and one for him. And he's about to eat. At that time, an air hostess just starts coming, on the aisle and sees that and says, "Wow, looks, wonderful," and just puts her hand inside that Mahaprasadam and just puts it in her mouth. I mean, if you do that right now, probably they will sue the air hostess, So that time she just took it and says, "Wow, this is wonderful. What is this?" And Shrutikirti was in shock. What happened? You just took, he was in shock. But they said, "Oh, this is called puffed rice," and said, "Oh, it's delicious, wonderful," and just, she really loved it. And I mean, I don't know, what made her, but. And then she asked, "Okay, can I get you something from? Yeah, can I get something from first class? I became the first class. So Shrutikirti Prabhu asked Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, do you want anything?" Prabhupada said, "1 glass of hot milk." "And fruits also?" "Yes." So it's okay, I will get it. So she went to the first class area, and just to be clear, Prabhupada never liked traveling first class. We have a desire, want to travel first class. Oh no, seat very nicely. Prabhupada traveled once, and he said, "It's just a waste of money. Why? Just, we don't have to pay anything. We just get second class and then travel to wherever we want." So she bought in milk and fruits, and they had prasadam. And this went by, and
so that is Bhagavat Sewa also. She got not only got the remnants of Prabhupada, but also got an opportunity to serve Prabhupada. Bhagavat Seva.
Absolutely. And way later, this has happened in the 70s, and way later when Shrutikirti Prabhu was in LA temple, in 2000s or 2000, early 2000s, he was retelling this pastime to the devotees there. And in the audience, there was another disciple of Prabhupada, his god brother. And at the end of the lecture, he came to Shrutikirti Prabhu and said, "Well, I have a story for you too. I have another story. It's actually a continuation of that." So he said, I did Sankirtan party. I travel all over the world and do Sankirtan. And during that time, once we happened to be in Brazil, and we're doing Sankirtan, take a bus, do Kirtan, Prasadam distribution, book distribution, and we used to go, that way. And once upon a time, we were in the hearts of Brazilian forest, and where there were many tribal kind of people, and they used to go door to door knocking, giving books and prasadam. And this devotee knocked on the door, and the lady opened, and he said, "Hare Krishna," and the lady replied, "Hare Krishna." He said, "Hey, Hare Krishna?" He is in surprise. Do you expect to reply by Hare Krishna? So he said, "Please come in." And when he entered the house, he saw Prabhupada's photo, Radha Krishna's photo, everywhere. The whole room is temple. And she said, what? She didn't expect this kind of environment right in the middle of nowhere. And he said, "What happened?" He said, "No, this one meeting, I took remembrance of Srila Prabhupada. I was an air hostess in Venezuelan Airlines long back. I just had one remnant, and that changed my life. Completely changed my life. And now I'm here." That is the potency of Mahaprasad, remnants of a pure devotee. So I just want to share that came to my mind. Thank you so much for your.
Yes, wonderful. That's a wonderful pastime and shows the absolute power of prasadam And not only that, the power of prasadam, that Srila Prabhupada is truly a associate of the Lord Krishna. Otherwise, just eating his remnants, how can you get that transformation of heart? These are just very strong proof points of the exaltedness of our wonderful founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Wonderful. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Any other devotees want to share anything? And please continue to take up devotional service. This is the boat, like we said today, this is the boat through which we can cross the Bhavasagar, the ocean of miseries in the material world. And some of us may be very happy. Like I was saying, I'm very lucky. I did not have to, so far, I have not experienced such calamities. Maybe some people have, maybe some people have not. And very nice if they have not. And may you never experience. But that doesn't mean this ocean or this world is not an ocean of miseries. So one should take this opportunity of human life to glorify, to chant the name of Lord, to hear about the Lord, hear the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Kirtans, and chant the name of Lord, and make yourself prepared to make spiritual progress. Whether calamity arrives or not, and maybe calamity may not arrive, maybe next life it will arrive, and one calamity will definitely arrive in this life, which is death. And many people may believe that my death will be very peaceful, but death is never peaceful, and nobody wants to die. So if one gets this spiritual knowledge, it creates a very strong foundation to realize that this material life is not everything, and there is something more to it, and make some progress in this life while we have this human body towards spirituality, because that is eternal, that stays with us. We have seen in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it never goes away, it stays with us. Everything goes away. Even when Bill Gates will die, he won't take his billions of dollars with him, it will all stay here. But whatever spiritual progress we make, it goes with us. And this human life is the only time when we can make that progress. So by chanting the names of Krishna, please try to make this spiritual progress. We have the chanting beads available. And so many people came to our house and took these chanting beads, and actually we are run out. We have ordered more, it will arrive by tomorrow. So I'm very inspired. Some of you are at least taking it. Then use them to chant the names of Krishna, and hear the names of Krishna, and make your spiritual progress in this way. So please do that. Don't hold back. Material things will always be there. Facebook will always be there, WhatsApp, your friends, your movies, and this, all that is there. I'm not saying give that up completely 100%, but reduce it at least to some extent to create time for Krishna. And if you feel inspired as you go along, then you can increase the time for Krishna. And try it out, at least try it out. So please take on this process. It's high time everybody who is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, who is enjoying, should actually start practicing. So that is my request. Any last closing thoughts before we end?
Somebody's asking in a chat.
Any chat messages are there? I can.
General question.
What's the question?
My 6-year-old son asked me, "Can I see God?" But I don't know how to answer him.
Okay, so the question is, can I see God? But I don't know how to answer. Sure, yes, you can see God, but you need to have the purity and the qualification to see God. Like Narada Muni, he spent that wonderful time, 4 months, and he got the opportunity to spend that time with those pure devotees during the rainy season. And then he implemented it in his life. He really took it to heart. Even when he faced such a big calamity, he still took those instructions to heart. And then he sat down under a banyan tree and meditated for a long time, long enough time, still called short, but at least long enough. I mean, I cannot meditate with lot of focus for more than 15 minutes. My focus breaks. He was able to meditate for days. And so that was the qualification. And still he could see the Lord momentarily. And momentarily is enough. That created that hankering, so that for the rest of his life, he was Krishna conscious. He was completely conscious of God. You don't have to keep seeing God every single time, every single moment. So the idea is to become Krishna conscious. So, but by seeing God, yes, that, he got that big boost, that hankering developed even more. But look at all the things he did to reach that level. So if you do that, you will see God. There are so many acharyas who have seen God, who say, and they won't be lying. It's not like a claim, oh, I've seen God, I have the medal to show. They don't put it up on their drawing room, on their living room. Here is the medal. See, I have seen God. No, to only very confidential associates they reveal, just to inspire them that they can also see God. So yes, you can see God, but you need qualification. I mean, come on, heck, to see a important person today in this material world, you need some qualification as well. Try and book an appointment with Bill Gates today. You don't even know his email address. You don't even know where it is the first step to take. And even if you know his contact information, try sending an email saying, I want to meet you. He will say, or somebody else, his secretary will reply saying, who are you? Why should Bill Gates give you 1 minute of time? Send an email to, I don't know, there must be an email address called president@whitehouse.gov. Hello, Mr. Biden, I want to see you. You'll say, wait, who are you? Why should Mr. Biden spend 2 minutes on you? So you need some qualification. If you say, hey, I am Narendra Modi, I am Prime Minister of India, I want to meet Mr. Biden, then he will say, okay, good. When would you like to meet? And here is the schedule, and you can set up a meeting. But you have to be Prime Minister of India or whatever, leader of a country. You have to have, the point is that even in the material world, to see somebody important, you need to have the qualification. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry cannot just go ahead and claim or demand, I want to see God. And if he doesn't show up in the next 5 minutes in front of my eyes, God does not exist. God doesn't care. You may think God doesn't exist. If I say in 5 minutes, if Joe Biden doesn't come and see me, he doesn't exist. That's a meaningless thing. So anyway, the point is, I hope I have convinced you that one need to build some qualification to see an important person. And Krishna is the most important person. So we must try to uh, develop the qualification. And if you develop the qualification, one day you will certainly see him. Now, till that day, what can you do? If you cannot see him, you can see his picture. You can see how he looks. And there are plenty of pictures available. There are plenty of descriptions available, what he does, what he looks like, what he likes, what he does not like. All those things, there is tremendous amount of information available about him. So if you want to know about God, that is accessible. So try to know about him first. If you go to meet an important person, even in the business areas, even in the business deal, you find out everything about him first. What he likes, what he doesn't like. You do full research on a important person, before you set up a meeting, isn't it? You just don't go blank and meet a very important person. Sometimes, you do full research history on that person. So let us start there. Let us do a research. Let us do a complete study on Krishna. And that study of Krishna itself is devotional service. Lord Krishna will become pleased. Wow, he's trying to know about me. He's interested in me. Let me accept his request for a meeting. And literature about Krishna is available plenty. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all this is available. So hopefully I have, answered that question. Can I see God? How to see God? Why cannot I see him? And what to do in the meantime? Does that make sense? Who asked that question? Yes, no? Okay, hopefully the answer is yes. Okay, any other points, questions, item, comments? So again, who, like you said, the child asked, please, you as a family and your child, both engage, don't just tell the child to do XYZ. You do, lead by example. Children learn way more by seeing rather than by being told. They learn by our actions rather than our words, especially the smaller children. So set an example. You start learning about Krishna, and they will automatically, they are just very innocent. Children are very innocent. They just do what the parents do. So just you do that, and children will just simply follow suit. Okay, anything else? Okay, we will then stop here. Thank you very much. So any suggestions for topics that we want to deal? So this whole topic of history of Srimad Bhagavatam kind of we have covered. We talked about Parikshit Maharaj, we talked about Vyasadeva and Sukadeva Goswami and Narada Muni. This whole thing was one big sort of, we broke it down into many stories over the last few weeks, but this was one big topic in itself. So I'm going to pick up some other topic, based on whatever inspires me. But if any of you have suggestions or specific desires, or here's this thing I have heard and I really want to know more details or something, you can send it to us. My wife's contact information. I can, Srimad Bhagavatam is vast and deep. We can talk about so many topics. So, okay. Thank you very much. Srimad Granth Raj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.